Hi everyone, it's James here. How are you all doing? It's a very wet, rainy Friday here in Lancaster, so I thought I would do a quick Vinyl Finds video, try and catch you up. So the first one is a record that I've been after for a long time. This is Randy Newman, 12 Songs, which I think was his second solo album. Came out in, as usual, the date is not on the record. Guitars, Ry Cooder on Bottleneck, Clarence White, Creme de la Creme. This record was a bit of a departure from his first album, which had been very piano-led. This one had a more kind of swampy, kind of R&B vibe to it. Some of the songs were tracks or tunes that he'd already passed on to other people. You know, Yellow Man is on here, which is on the Nielsen Sings Newman album. And a couple of other songs as well had been done by other people, but it's great to have this in the collection at last, and you know, to hear Randy's original versions. Fantastic album. And that one is on Warner's. Like I say, can't give you the date because they have chosen not to include it on the cover. Now this next one is an album I was really pleased to pick up because I nearly didn't, and it's this. Mike Bloomfield, It's Not Killing Me. Now Mike Bloomfield, as people will know, he was a member of the Butterfield Blues Band, and he'd played with Bob Dylan, and he was known as this real hotshot, fiery blues guitarist, you know, amazing musician. Now, I don't know if this was his first solo album or not, but it wasn't, I don't think it was what people had been expecting at the time. There are 3 or 4 tracks on this which do have his signature guitar sound, and what a guitar sound it is, you know, truly amazing player. But there's also, I mean, at least half the album is not what you'd expect. It's more kind of slightly world-weary sounding pop songs in a way, R&B pop songs. Think of the band. He's got a very well-lived-in voice, this very kind of soulful, not a technically great voice, but extremely heartfelt. And the songs just, they seem to just come out. It's very natural, it's very organic. And I think it works, the fact that there's not these big blues guitar solos firing off left, right and centre, that, you know, they just come every now and then. And this album has really grown on me. I've listened to it a lot over the last few weeks, and it was one that I nearly didn't pick up, so I was pleased I did. I mean, it was the artwork that kind of led me to it in a way. Obviously I knew who Bloomfield was, but this record just looks so fantastic. You know, it's clearly a kind of oldish artefact. It's just on red CBS One Eye, so never see his records around usually. Don't know much about his career. I know he ended up, I think he died in the back of a cab, I think, at the end. You know, he was a bit of a drug addict or alcoholic. I'm not quite sure of the history, but I'm sure he had a fascinating life, and you know, definitely an amazing musician and songwriter. So there we go, Mike Bloomfield, It's Not Killing Me. Bit of an impulse decision, this one. I'm not quite sure. Well, okay, I'll show you what it is. It's this. It's the Beach Boys and Carl and the Passions So Tough. 1972. The date is on here. There they are on the back. And I've been watching a video. I think it was the Listography. I think Listography did a Beach Boys rankings video, and they talked about this record, and it wasn't one that I was aware of. I'd heard of it, but I'd never heard it. I was on holiday somewhere and I streamed it and I quite enjoyed it. Looked for a copy of it, and there was an extremely affordable copy on eBay. I think I got it for £5, so I picked it up. It's definitely not vintage Beach Boys, but it's got a few good tracks on it. This comes from that sort of curious period where Brian Wilson had basically lost the plot, I think, or was in the process of losing the plot. So they got these guys in, who is it now? Ricky Fattar and Blondie Chaplin. Don't know much about them, but you know, the record, it's kind of alright in places. There are some good tracks. There's the song, I think it's a Dennis Wilson song, Cuddle Up at the end. It's quite a nice, sort of dreamy Beach Boys kind of song. Make It Good, Wilson and Dragon. I don't know who that is, Dragon. There's some sort of orchestral touches on this record, and it's got a kind of, it does have a Beach Boys sound to it, but they sound like they've levelled off, they've plateaued off, and they're in this kind of no man's land really in terms of commercial sales. They've lost their commercial edge, I think. It's an interesting period of their career, you know, that kind of, you know, I guess you call it the wilderness years, following the fame years in a way. But it was, like I said, it was cheap. and I'd quite enjoyed it streaming, but you know, on reflection, yeah, it's definitely not a top drawer Beach Boys album, and if I was having a clear out of Beach Boys albums, that one would probably be the first to go. Okay, so the next one we've got this morning is this. This is Grasshopper by J.J. Cale. Now, J.J. Cale, I've not bought a J.J. Cale record for probably about 20 years. I can remember buying, I've got about 3 or 4 of his records, and I picked them up. I can date it because it was before the birth of my first son. I can remember playing the records that I picked up, or I can remember playing them in the house that we lived in a couple of years before I became a father for the first time. My son is now 17, so I can sort of date these things. The passing of time, it's amazing. But I've always loved J.J. Cale's music, but I don't see it around all that much. I mean, it used to be much more common in charity shops, but less so now. But this record, no date on this one. Oh no, 1982. I didn't realise it was as late as that. So as per usual with JJ, it's just got this wonderful kind of delicacy to it. It's bluesy, it's R&B, it's a bit of soul, but it's so delicate and so kind of finely contoured. You know, it's like somebody painting with an extremely thin paintbrush. It's just so detailed, and I like his vocal style, the way he mixes himself down in the mix, so you don't have this kind of loud voice clanging you around the ears, you know. Everything's very measured, everything's very mellow, I guess. In some ways he reminds me of Steve Miller, but I think he's a more interesting artist than Steve Miller, perhaps not quite as radio generic. He's got his own take on the blues, and his records are very atmospheric and just lovely to listen to. They're kind of ear candy in a way. You know, they don't particularly challenge you or push you as a listener, but they do transport you. I tend to find he's a great headphone artist. There's quite a lot going on in the music. There's lots of intricate textures, and in fact, I think he's quite influential. I can hear all sorts of contemporary artists in his music. Really, I can hear Kurt Weill, who is a contemporary singer-songwriter guy who uses a lot of Americana flavoured guitars. I can definitely hear him, and I also heard little flashes of Lamb Chop. You know, the Americana band Lamb Chop, a kind of melancholy, world-weary kind of bluesy sound. Anyway, it's been a long time since I dipped my toe back into JJ, so it was nice to get that one. Grasshopper from 1982. Okay, so this next one was quite a nice find, because the day before I found it, I'd been talking to Headley on Facebook about this artist, and the fact that I didn't have much by her in the collection at all, really. And the next day I went down to Oxfam and found this. This is Emmylou Harris and Pieces of the Sky, which I think is maybe her first or second album. Comes from 1975. This has got her version of For No One on it, the Beatles song, and I really enjoyed it. She sings with such, it's kind of like a quiet intensity. She sort of projects this absolute mastery of the song that she's singing. She just makes it sound like her song, essentially, which is quite a difficult thing to do. You know, if you think of the song For No One, you know, the way McCartney does it on Revolver, it's quite baroque, isn't it? It's very Beatlesy, that kind of mid-1960s McCartney sound. Emmylou Harris totally reimagines it as this kind of slow country song, and she just really carries it off. It's quite something in a way, because you could easily imagine it just turning into a kind of soporific, easy-listening country and western kind of ballad, but she somehow imbues it with this, I don't know, this quietly simmering intensity. And the band do a great job as well. You know, the band fall in behind her, again with this extremely focused, intense kind of sound, which is just beautiful to listen to. Really enjoyed it, and like I said, I would pick up a lot more Emmylou Harris if I saw it around the place, but this one, I think it was £2 from Oxfam, so just one of those great finds, you know. Okay, so back to the Heightside Market stand now, and this one, not a record I was particularly looking for, but I was really pleased to find it. This is the band and Moondog Matinee, which was their covers album. Came out in 1923, I think. And so this record has got some great some great tracks on it. The Change Is Gonna Come at the end, which I think is sung by Rick Danko. Very, very emotional, moving performance of it. I was listening to it on headphones the other night and just kind of tears welling up, you know. I love Rick Danko's voice. He's got such, I don't know what it is. Just, I mean, it would be easy to sentimentalise a singer like him because it's that kind of down on the farm kind of sound, you know. It's deeply rooted in gospel music, and like all the members of the band, he puts his own spin on the material. I really enjoyed this record. It's, you know, it's great fun. It's got Promised Land on it, The Great Pretender. It's got stuff by Fats Domino, and it's got Mystery Train on it, which it's got a bit of a chugging feel to it. Just a great one to find. You know, the band is a band that I've collected very sporadically over the years. Don't see their records around all that much, so that was a nice find from the Heightside guys. And this one I picked up, I think on the same day, just on impulse really, because I've seen it down there before and I've never picked it up, and I think they dropped the price, it was a £5 or something, so I grabbed it. And this is Adrian Baloo and his album Lone Rhino, and it's there we go, and it comes with some nice some nice bits and pieces. This one, you've got a picture of Adrian there. Oops. But then you've also got an original an original Island Records promo leaflet, which takes you all through his career. Now, Adrian Baloo, I don't have much by him in my collection at all. The one record I can think of that I do have is Discipline by King Crimson, and this album is not a million miles away from that. Adrian Baloo is an interesting artist because he was associated with art rock or progressive rock. You know, he worked a lot with Robert Fripp, he worked with David Bowie, of course, in the 70s, but he definitely imbibed a kind of new wave sensibility. He gets criticised sometimes by, well, he gets accused of trying to sing like David Byrne. His vocal style is very David Byrne-ish. He borrowed a lot of David Byrne's phrasing, I think. This record was enjoyable, but it's like music totally designed for the head or for the intellect. It's got that kind of nervy new wave sound with lots of Robert Frippy type guitar textures and quirky lyrics, but it doesn't sound like it's been at all designed to move your heart. I wouldn't go so far as to say it's clinical, but on the 2 listens I've had of it so far, anyway, it's definitely head music. It's not a record which is going to stir your passions, but I enjoyed it. It was worth picking up for a £5. And will I pick up any more Adrian Baloo records? Probably not, actually, on the strength of this one, unless somebody can recommend one, which is mind-blowing. But enjoyable, but not essential, I'd say, for that. Interesting. And it was nice to get the Virgin promo thing and the delightful photograph. I'm just looking, actually, that classic kind of suit. This comes from kind of early 80s, I think, 1981, and he sure as hell looks like he knows it's 1981. Okay, so the final one, and this one for me is the best of the bunch in a way, because it's a record that I've been after for so many years. Not a record which is very well regarded at all, really, although I think it's come round in the opinions of some people. Here we have Trans by Neil Young, and this is the record that he made. Very interesting history with this record. He was trying to do some speech therapy with his son, who'd been born with cerebral palsy, and you know, he was messing around with a vocoder, and he was getting into this. He had this theme in his mind of you know, trying to communicate with somebody who's not easy to communicate with, and using a lot of repetition. And the vocoder thing, I think, sent him off in a sort of slightly sci-fi direction, and it came from the Geffen years, where, you know, he ended up being sued for making, I think they call it uncharacteristic music or something. You know, they signed Neil Young, and he just kept delivering these records which were almost deliberately designed not to appeal to his fans. But I think this one has come to be seen now in retrospect as a bit of a cult classic. Just, it makes you feel very nostalgic for all those early 80s synths and program sounds, you know, the vocoder. You know, it's definitely of its era. It sort of reminds me of just, you know, going around to friends' bedrooms back in back in the early 80s when I was a kid and listening to, you know, various electronic tracks that were doing the rounds back then. Kind of quite moving in a way. It's almost a sort of elegiac quality to it, you know, making you think back to the early 80s and just the start of all those sounds, the start of all that digital revolution that was about to take place. And strange to think of Neil Young being an artist who was maybe slightly ahead of the curve at that point, because, you know, Neil Young has got a reputation for being a bit of a hoary old dinosaur, I guess. But anyway, just great fun. Nice to get it into the collection at long last. It's been too long coming. So there we go, Neil Young and Trends. Right, that'll do for now, and I hope you enjoyed that. There's 2 more finds videos I need to do before I cleared the backlog. Got a jazz haul to show you, and then some fusion records as well. So I will get onto that with all due speed and hopefully deliver those in the next couple of weeks. So I'm going to walk the dog in the rain now. I will see you soon. Take care, folks. Thanks for watching. Bye.